have sexual relations with
I realize that this is something we used to
We're not going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival bars.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chancellor. This is Backfire.
Hey, good morning, Cleveland. Welcome to another edition of Backfire. Glad to have you with us this morning. Well, I'm proud to say that we've got a full house. John Stanberry, Franklin Chancellor, myself, and our chief engineer, Daniel Brandon.
What you're saying is, between our mutual egos, the room's full. Is that what you're saying?
All right, I think we finally got
correct.
I think we got things fixed here now. Candies Creek or Cherokee Elementary School, C-A-N-D-Y-S or C-A-N-D-I-E-S. Which way, guys? Let's have a vote.
Growing up, I thought it was IES.
It is IES if you look at the vast majority of the names.
But I guess they're saying, I think they're saying that grammatically that wouldn't be correct. But that's the way but the way I've remembered it all my life was IES.
No, actually, a friend of mine, Ron Heil, and I were talking about this, and so we both got to researching it a little bit. And originally, it was a man named Candy. He was part Cherokee, and it was Candy with a possessive. It's his creek, Candy's Creek. And so as I understand it, the school board actually had a whole discussion about this, and they wanted to honor the Indian heritage, and they named it Candy's Creek with the apostrophe S. Now, I'm probably a little harsh on that. I think that's a big old story to get some credit without really taking a stand. If you really wanted to honor the Indians, you should have named it Cherokee Elementary. Actually name it after the Indians. But they are apparently historically and grammatically correct in that spelling.
Are we going to have free gambling in this school? Well, why are we trying to name a school after the Indians around here anyway? They've got casinos around here. We don't need anything else named after.
Well, the school board is grammatically and
I like Candy, C-A-N-D-I-E-S.
That's how everybody has spelled it for decades, or if not.
And I think it ought to just be Candy's Creek Elementary School.
But that is a nod to the Cherokee heritage in the area, apparently.
Yeah.
I think he had a store.
People don't
I may be wrong
remember
about this.
People don't remember when what is now Lake Forest Middle School and previously Truett Junior High School, that name was the runner-up. It was Cherokee Junior High School they were looking at.
Well, there's going to be some liberal group come in here a few years from now and make us take Cherokee out of it.
Well, I mean,
Why do we even pursue these areas?
I don't know.
Why don't we just take the name Cherokee out of it and let's change it to Candy's Creek Elementary School, and we wouldn't be having these discussions.
Well, probably because you'll have this discussion. Why did they name it apostrophe S instead of IES?
Well, that's really what I thought.
Well, that's what I did too. The way Ron and I's conversation started was we were both, what's wrong with these people? Why can't they spell this right? And I got to looking into it, and apparently that's correct.
Well, I'm showing an old marker, which used to be along Highway 60, which told the history of Candy's Creek area, and it is C-A-N-D-Y-S.
Well, I just think that probably over time we all started doing it the other way, but I can't criticize them for doing it correctly.
You can't criticize them if you're correct.
Well,
Now again, if I really wanted to honor the Indians, I would have named it Cherokee Elementary, just named it after the Cherokee Nation.
but I'm telling you, if we put Cherokee in there, there's going to be somebody come along and want it taken down. So why go into this? Right now, the way our world is, somebody don't like something every time you do it.
Well, if they're smart, they will chat with the representatives of the Cherokee Nation and ask for their opinion.
I doubt that's
I
happening.
don't think that's happening.
Well, they come to Cleveland regularly, so it's not out of the
Well, you would think that before a United States Senator and future presidential candidate was going to claim Cherokee heritage, she would have checked with the Cherokee Nation, and that didn't happen.
I like Candies Creek School, Candies, and let's keep it there. Get rid of the Cherokee and get rid of
The apostrophe.
Yes, and everybody was going to be happy.
Well, I think that cinches it, though. I don't want anyone to ever say we don't take on the big issues here on Backfire.
Well, here's another one. Here's another one that kind of rode across my desk here. Court says using chalk on tires for parking enforcement violates Constitution.
Yep.
You can't mark your tires. They can't mark your tires with chalk anymore. They've had somebody sue.
What, because you're touching their
It
personal
violates the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah.
search and seizure?
That's what they said. Yeah. Our United States Supreme Court.
You touched their car. It was their car.
I understand, but search and seizure, I thought, and Franklin, help me with this, because there are regulations about what's visible, what's in plain sight. If you can look into a car and make a judgment, why would you not be able to mark the outside of the car?
Well, just say they can't touch your car without your permission.
So it's the touching.
It's the touching that does it. Now, there's ways that the government can get around that easily with a little more effort. So it's not like they can't write tickets anymore. They just said that particular method is constitutional.
How will they get around it? Because they look at the position of the chalk
Well,
mark.
that's one way of doing it, but you write down the license plate.
So it'll just be harder and cost more
Well,
money.
they could probably mark the
I don't
street.
know if a little notebook costs more than the chalk sticks they're using do. So I don't think it'll have a great deal of impact.
I have an idea for entrepreneurs: create an app where cops can take a picture of a license plate that starts a 2-hour timer, and when it dings as they're walking around, they can check it again. You're welcome.
That is a good idea. High tech
Comes to law enforcement.
comes to Woo. Yeah, they can use your
All kinds of
body.
things they can do.
Anyway, it's a strange world we live in when the old ticket master can't go around with his chopstick anymore.
There's a for 25 years there's been a mass migration of people coming out of their offices downtown every hour and 45 minutes
To roll
move
the
their
car.
about a quarter of a rotation.
So that chalk line's up instead of down.
Right. And that's been amazing too. They should have never taken down the parking meters. We should put up parking meters. I think those work pretty well. Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure we did.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, downtown Chattanooga has them now. They're fancier. They, work a little bit more.
But they were put in by a
Broadly.
private company
Right. That's true.
who makes money off of it and shares the revenue.
So in other words, private industry capitalism was able to do it more efficiently than the government.
I don't know if that's true or false. I don't know. But I know that the government didn't have to spend the money to put them in, which is the main thing, I would think.
By allowing capitalism to work.
I was looking at the city is pursuing a $25 million grant for Emmons Street improvements.
Yeah. And finally doing the thing that I think really will benefit, as part of it is definitely to reduce it to single lane travel with a center turn lane during portions of it, which I assume to be the 5 Points area down
All right,
there,
all right. But-
so that you can have a better pedestrian area down
All
there.
right, but just let me point out again, didn't we spend taxpayer funds a decade or two ago to actually take the parking up on Inman Street and enlarge it to the four
Did
lane?
we or did the state do that? It is the
I don't
state highway
care.
bureau.
It's just so frustrating to spend taxpayer dollars to do something and then turn around and undo it with taxpayer dollars.
Well,
You know, conditions changed though. At that time, they were worried about trying to get traffic into downtown because the downtown was dying.
But think about it, Franklin.
So
They
now it's
said
booming.
we need to open this up so more traffic can flow through because that'll help the downtown. Now they're going, hey, guess what? It's flowing through too quickly. We need to slow it back down. So that's my point is we are making the exact opposite arguments on each end of this scenario.
Because 35 years later, things changed. That's not a surprise.
Or because we were wrong.
Were we? I don't know.
Well, let me get to the kicker of this story. I haven't finished it yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is a kicker, isn't there?
25 million. They're looking for $25 million worth of grants.
They're expecting
But it'll be matching. We have to match 25 million against it.
From the city itself?
Well, where are we going to get it?
Well, I guess they just raised taxes 28% again.
How do you match 25 million unless somebody donates?
Well, some of it could
Some of
be
that can be
donations.
state, and
Some of it could be donations, public-private partnerships.
you're not going to raise 25 million, frankly.
Well, it depends on how fast you have to raise it, first of all.
What does United Way raise every year?
You're asking me a tough question. I should know that. They've been down on their capital campaign the last couple of years, I think.
I think you'll find raising donation-wise $25 million is virtually impossible in Cleveland for that.
Well, this is a big deal, and it will be an important topic over the next couple of months. Phoebus, I think it's the heart and core of our whirlpool development and downtown redevelopment.
Yeah. I think it's a really positive step.
I think you'd do a lot better to be paving from Dalton Pike on through and trying to talk to them about making an interchange at Harrison Pike. I mean, right now, you drive anywhere and you'll see downtown spur. You'll see the spur to go downtown somewhere. We don't have a spur. You got to get off 2 miles or 3 miles up or 2 miles down to get to downtown Cleveland.
Well, you get off exit 20 and come in and follow the old highway in.
I know, but my point is, most of these towns have a direct exit off of the interstate. We don't have that. We've talked about that Harrison Pike for decades now.
Well,
I applaud the city for this one. I think that that redevelopment of Inman Street in particular is really a key to continuing to make the downtown a friendlier, better place for the whole community. I say good.
One really good thing about that, I will have to say, if you have to slow down a little bit, somebody that happened to have $6 or $8 million in their pocket might decide to buy the Cherokee Hotel off the taxpayers' back.
I got a feeling that hotel's going to be another hotel.
Okay. Because we've got so many people wanting to live downtown already.
Well, you got more than you think down there. You got the new development that's going in there across from the Elks Lodge there that's going to happen.
I haven't seen anything start happening there.
Well, it got approved for the pilot agreement.
Is there a timeline on it?
I think that'll happen. So that's gonna
I would assume it'd get started in the next year.
Polk County, what do you think about Polk County? Polk County, a gun sanctuary now.
Actually, they got national coverage. That was listed in the national news reports. And actually,
The first Tennessee county.
actually, it's one of the, well, I mean, they've been doing it around the country, but I think it's one of the first ones to get some coverage like that for it.
Well, it'll be interesting, the Tennessee General Assembly passed a gun control measure this week, sponsored by a Republican. Will Polk County not enforce that one?
Well, frankly,
Just curious.
I made the argument when we were talking about sanctuary cities and sanctuary states for immigration that it was a bad precedent. Now, while I may agree with the sentiment in Polk County, which I do, I still think it's a bad precedent for local jurisdictions to start claiming they don't have to enforce federal law. You have been quite supportive of this crap in California and Vermont and Connecticut when it's been on the liberal side of the coin. Welcome to balance in the world.
I've done no such thing. I've simply pointed out what the actual issue is for those communities.
What is it?
Because they have so many more immigrants in that area that you're putting a huge financial burden on them to do federal law enforcement for you.
When we decided to help them out by sending the immigrants to them a couple of weeks ago,
Most of them said, please. go ahead.
actually a huge number of them sounded kind of racist and xenophobic, to use you all's language.
Several of the mayors I saw said, okay, do it.
I wish we had it. Why didn't we do it? Yeah. Why didn't we do it if some of those mayors said, come on, I'd be happy In fact, I'll go out there and help drive some over there.
Okay.
Well, I don't see anything happening, so nothing. We're all talk, no action, aren't we?
John, did you breathe a sigh of relief this week?
How's that?
Well, the city passed its budget without a tax increase.
The county didn't pass a tax increase either. But I will tell you, a lot of us started going to some of these town hall events, which were, a lot of them, from what I heard, were quite orchestrated with all the needs. It's like I've said all along, they bring out the needs after they've spent money on the wants. The county, I have to correct something or add to something that I said last week about the revenue. The revenue went up $1 million a year on average, a little, some years 900,000, some years over. So, but it averaged probably close to $1 million a year. That's the property tax increase. But 3 years ago, they also got a $3 million bump in the in lieu of taxes payment, and that has continued. So you took a $4 million step 3 years ago, and you still continue to get $1 million more, and that's just the property tax increase. That's not counting the sales tax, which I'm reasonably sure increased as well. So you've got like $2 million a year more.
This is a serious question. I'm not trying to.
No.
What did they do on pay increases for employees this year?
Well, here's
what I want to know is if they raise, let's say they gave 1%, okay, what is the dollar figure that represents?
Well, the tax increase, every penny is about $250,000.
Okay.
And from what I understand, to a 2.5% increase is well over $1 million across the board. But here's the problem, and I said this at one of the town halls. It's insulting to the taxpayer to use, and I think the city used the firemen and the policemen last time. I think the county was sort of attempting to use, it's always good to bring the children out, and those needs in the school system are real. I'm not saying they're not. But the problem with this is here's the logic. They say we have people that on the bottom end of the pay scale are paid too little, and there's too big of a gap from the bottom to the top. Now, I will tell you, there was a CTAS study about 10 years ago that the commission got that confirmed we do have people on the bottom end of the spectrum that are paid below the state average. But guess what? We have people on the top end of the spectrum that are paid above the state average. That part of that study didn't get talked about a whole lot. So we have some people in the county making above average pay for county employees. But here's the problem. If you give an across-the-board percentage increase, you actually increase the gap between the bottom and the top. Because if you make $100,000 and you get $2,500, 2.5%, you get $2,500, and you make $20,000 and you get $400, you've actually increased the gap. So it's insulting to tell the taxpayer, here's the problem, it's the gap. And then when you get some more money, you actually make the problem worse. You make the gap worse. My suggestion was a stair-stepped raise system. If you're worried about the entry-level firemen, you're worried about the entry-level police officers, which you should, because they risk their life every day. Then what you say is, if you make below $40,000, you're going to get a 5% raise.
Here's what I see right now. They keep saying that they have turnover, okay? They have turnover. They do have turnover. So let's raise the starting pay salary.
But that's my point.
Where it needs to be, and then let's go from there at a slow.
A step system would do that. You give below 40 gets 5%, 40 to 60 gets 2.5%, and above 60 gets 1% or maybe none.
But you don't give everybody across the board.
No. If you give everybody an across the board percentage raise, now there are a few, here's another wrinkle in this. All of the county elected officials are constitutional officers, and they can do what they want. There are some of the offices that give it across the board cash dollar amount, equal dollar amount. That's not quite as good as a percentage step system, but it does actually close the gap. If everybody gets the same dollar amount, you do help close the gap a little bit. But a stepped percentage is the best way to address that problem. Now, I'll tell you though, I heard grumblings that there were a lot of people on the upper end of the spectrum that were being pretty aggressive about, well, by golly, I deserve a raise just as much as anybody else.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about Sanders running for president right now, Franklin?
I think he's gotten a lot of traction with young people in particular because of his emphasis on some issues. Ultimately, I don't think he's going to be successful. Although it is interesting, an interesting dynamic when you look at where candidate support comes from. It's sort of a strange thing. If you look on different ends of the spectrum, you've got this older candidate who's getting a lot of support from younger people. This Pete Buttigieg guy, a lot of his support is coming from older people. So it's kind of fascinating. The youngest candidate has a lot of support from older voters, and the opposite is true.
Let me ask you a question about what Bernie just brought up. Bernie Sanders said he thinks everyone should have the right to vote, even the Boston Marathon bomber.
Yeah. Well,
that's why he won't be the nominee. Right? What Franklin is not telling you is they're scared to death that he'll be the nominee because he won't. People are not going to vote for a socialist right now. Now they're sowing those seeds, but so far they're not going to bear fruit. But now let me say something about Bernie.
Let me say this, and I'm not defending him because I disagree with him on this. His view is that the laws that take voting rights away from people are unconstitutional. The Constitution doesn't talk about that.
He does make a logical.
That's the argument he's making, and he says once you accept that premise, there's no way to distinguish between somebody who, had a felony amount of marijuana as opposed to some other felony. I don't accept that idea, but that's the argument he's making.
Well, let me say this about Bernie.
Now, let me finish. I do think this, though. The portion of that I agree with, I think when you finish your sentence, your voting rights should automatically.
Here's the argument. Does that include restitution and probation? Or does that
it includes probation. Because your sentence is.
I think it should include restitution as well. If you've got restitution hanging over there, you ought to have a reason to have to pay that back.
That's exactly right.
You haven't paid your. But let me say this about Bernie, though. Bernie defied the entire Democratic Party establishment and went on Fox News. And that was probably one of the best things he could have done. And now you've got other candidates going, now wait a minute, I'd kind of like to have a town hall. I'll give him credit. He walked into a group that you would say is certainly not on his side like he would expect at MSNBC or some of those. And he probably did himself a lot of good there.
Well, here is
Lidway Pete.
Well, I think
whatever
he's going to do one too.
He had a town hall, and he had an opportunity. Richard Grinnell, the first openly gay United States ambassador, appointed by Trump, by the way, first openly gay ambassador, challenged him on all of these attacks on Mike Pence and said, look, I know Mike Pence. I've been in his home. He's good to me. He's a Christian soul. You're wrong about that. He was asked point blank in his town hall if he wanted to respond, and he said, I know I'm not a terrible fisherman, but I know bait when I see it, and I'm not going to take the bait. He's the one that's been throwing the bait out that Vice President Pence didn't take. So it's interesting that that's been a cornerstone for the last month of his campaign. But when offered an opportunity to discuss the issue with another gay politician, he chose not to.
Well, and you know what? I saw that on Communist News Network. I was watching it, and their comment, they come back a different way. Is that he really makes. He thinks well on his feet. He really thinks well. He's a good speaker.
No, look, it was a pre-canned answer. He knew he wasn't good. But my point is, you really want to have a discussion. Here's another person who's endured the same hardships you have as a gay American, and he has a differing opinion, and you choose not to.
That wasn't a question about hardships that gay Americans experience. He probably would have engaged on that. He wasn't going to engage on the question about Mike Pence. Well, there's a lot of disagreement about it.
Let me read
What has Mike Pence done to this jerk?
Well,
Nothing. Actually, they were friends. They worked well together. He had him in his home. He had his partner in his home. He never said a word about him publicly, never attacked him. Buttigieg actually in his books and all said that Pence was wonderful to work with, was kind, was always helpful to his city. It wasn't until he started running for president that he started
I mean, I
attacking.
can imagine trying to pick on our vice president. He's so soft and
we
easygoing.
forget that he was the one who signed the legislation in Indiana, which created so much controversy.
You mean the legislation that protected Christians, who are the most persecuted minority in the world right now? That legislation.
The most persecuted minority in the world.
Yes, they are. You want to know?
Hey, calm down.
I'll give you the numbers.
Calm down.
Pew Research Center poll: Christians were harassed in 144 countries, up from 128 the year before. The number of countries with high or very high levels of restrictions on religion rose from 25% of the countries to 28%. That is the second highest in over a decade. There were 4,136 Christians killed last year. That's 11 every day for their faith. There were 1,266 churches, Christian buildings were attacked and burned. 2,625 Christians were detained without trial, arrested, or sentenced and imposed. In 2014, ISIS started a genocide against Christians in the Middle East to the point where even Secretary John Kerry said it was a genocidal responsible for crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing. Christians are the most persecuted religion in the world. And by the way, Obama and Clinton, when we had churches attacked in Sri Lanka, couldn't bring themselves to call them Christians.
They called them Easter worshipers.
Which
Oh
are
my God.
Christians. Are Christians,
You
Franklin.
guys one day will have to get over your Obama-Clinton obsession.
I don't care about Obama.
I got
The
news for
media
you.
didn't either.
They
The
are
Washington
not in
Post-
office.
The Washington Post.
You guys,
uses it. The
you guys
Washington.
have got to get over it.
The Washington
Wait a minute,
Post uses it as an
John, wait a minute. Get over what, Franklin?
This nation hates
That Trump won the
You won't
election.
accept that Trump's the president, and you're telling us to get
That is exactly right.
Hey, Franklin.
No, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to give you exactly what I'm going to say. This is Donald Trump on Easter, okay? Here's what Donald Trump said on Easter's meeting, a direct question to him this week.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's a quote. Well, it really means something very special. I'm going to church in an hour from now, and it's a beautiful church. I'm in Florida. And it's just a very special time for me. And it really represents family and get together and something, you know, if you're a Christian, it's just a very important day. Really? You're giving
Wait a minute.
Barack Obama
Wait a minute.
criticism about the way he talks about religion when you support this idiot?
Wait a minute, Franklin. What was wrong with what you just read?
You don't think Easter had anything, the meaning of Easter had anything to do with, I don't know, Jesus or the resurrection or anything?
Did he say anything?
Oh, it's a special day and I'm in a beautiful church. Come on.
Franklin. If he had mentioned Jesus, or if he had mentioned any of that, what do you think would have happened? What do you think the Communist News Network would have said then?
Right now is you guys are going apoplectic because he at least talked about worshipers. He didn't use the words you wanted. And this idiot who couldn't be anything more
Let me ask you a question. So he has asked sort of a general.
meaning of Easter.
Listen to me, Franklin. There is a huge emotional significance in 300 Christians being killed in one day's attack in an orchestrated Islamic attack. And the media, the Washington Post used it as an excuse to actually criticize white supremacists. So 300 Christians are killed, and it's an excuse to talk about white supremacists.
I'm making simple. You guys have got a completely different standard when you're talking about Democrats.
Wait a minute. Here's the point you'd like to make and the point you just made, okay? You just made a point about a president saying some nice thing and tried to make it in a bad way like he said something.
No, what I'm saying to you is you guys...
No, let me finish. You talk. Let me finish. You guys, when you say you guys...
You guys.
No, you guys. The Communist News Network and Franklin Chansey...
You got Barack Obama, who has talked extensively about his Christian faith, and how important it is to him.
Which one of his family members did he learn it from?
I don't know. Maybe his American grandparents who raised him?
What was that preacher's name?
It wasn't from his mother who
What
was
was
an
that preacher's
atheist,
name he
or
went
his
to?
dad who was a Muslim.
When he went to that crazy preacher for 20 years, what was his name that said GD?
No, he actually
He went 20 years to
black
church there.
liberation theology.
Yes. Don't tell me
It was
anything.
Franklin. I can't deny that.
Don't bring up Obama and
No, I will break up because I will put his face.
Don't even try to match
No,
Donald.
I am so
Obama
sick
close to
of
what
you
Donald Trump
trying
is.
to wrap Donald Trump in the Bible. He's ashamed.
Franklin, no.
He's shameful.
To break it to you, Christianity is about individual failings. And you're right,
that's
the man has tremendous,
That's right, John, it
Franklin,
is.
the man has tremendous
That's exactly
individual
right.
failings. But you know what? He has been one of the strongest presidents for supporting the Christian faith in the world
He's been one
that
of the
we've had in
strongest
decades.
presidents for pulling the wool over your eyes
Look,
and
Franklin,
you swallowing it.
people can have individual failings and still try to do the right thing. And that's really what Christianity's about. None of us are perfect. The only perfect person, Franklin, got nailed to a cross 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Hey, Franklin, I don't think I want to talk about Obama today.
Well, you brought him up.
No, I didn't think no. You brought Obama up.
No, you did.
I did.
What did you say about Obama?
I just said, and Franklin, look, I'm not that bothered by Obama or Clinton's statement. I am bothered by the news media. And my point was that the Obama, Clinton, they're all part of the liberal sort of news media. And this attack in Sri Lanka was not treated anywhere near like the attack at Christ Church in New Zealand. Because it was immediately said this was an attack on the Muslim faith. This clearly was an attack on the Christian faith, and the Washington Post literally used it. Here's their headline, Franklin. Let me read it to you. Christianity under attack with a question mark. Sri Lanka church bombing stoked far-right anger in the West. They used it as an excuse to do a story on some kind of neo-Nazi group out of Germany and Marie Le Pen in France and the Ku Klux Klan. Ku Klux Klan probably has 10,000 members total. If you take some of the estimates, there was a study a couple of years ago that over 33% of Muslims think that terrorism is justified. If you translate 33% to the worldwide Muslim belief structure, that's over 300 million people who support terrorism. And they write a story about the Ku Klux Klan? It's ridiculous.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
I'm sorry, baby. I don't know who sent this letter.
Another SOS, and you're stressing, and that's the time to check in. I check in the cash.
It's that time again. Are you more back to school or back to bills? When you need extra cash, text the word quote to 55670 for a free, no obligation quote. Learn how much cash you can pre-qualify for. That's quote to 55670. Get pre-qualified today.
Your one-stop money shop. Check into cash.
Matthews Pool and Spa Company, located in Cleveland, Bradley County for over 45 years. You know them. They're your new swimming pool construction and supply company in Cleveland, Tennessee, now with 4 generations of Matthews to serve you. Matthews Pool and Spa Company, for over 45 years, your swimming pool construction and supply company, spa or hot tub installation and maintenance. Get all of your supplies to your pool or spa right now. That's the new location in the old Quinn Electric Company building behind KFC at 2724 Keith Street in Cleveland. Call Matthews now, 476-4521. You better get your order in now for your new pool construction for this spring and summer. 476-4521. Matthews Pool and Spa Company. Gonna jump in. Woo! Attention, Cleveland area creditors. Are you tired of dealing with debtors that owe you money? I'm Jeff Renfro, and I've owned and operated Financial Recovery, a debt recovery specialist here in my hometown of Cleveland for 18 years. We're a licensed and bonded Tennessee collection agency working for a wide variety of creditors, from commercial, manufacturing, physicians, dentists, attorneys, small business owners, to individuals. Look, any kind of business dealing with billing, charge accounts, or even return checks. I know your past due accounts are not a top priority for you, but they would be to me. Let me try to make it easy for you to make a change in the way you've been handling your accounts. There's no contract and no cost to you in most cases, as our fee of only 30% can be added to the balance owed to you. So, whether you have hundreds of accounts monthly and need help with your billing and collection, or you're just an individual and somebody owes you money, let me help you. Give me a call at 400-5376 and I'll come by and see you. That's 400-5376. Financial Recovery, a licensed and bonded collection agency in Cleveland, Tennessee, 400-5376.
We're here at the Trane Heating and Air Conditioning Testing Facility to see how unstoppable their products really are.
Inside this climate chamber, it's raining incredibly hard on this Trane AC unit. Clearly, it's hard to stop the train.
Ready for a heating and air unit that's been tested in the harshest environments possible? Stop thinking about the other guys and get a Trane. Call Mechanical Systems today to get your home on the road to comfort. 336-5739.
Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Dr. Christopher Chase, with Associates in Plastic Surgery, now offers his patients the convenience of a Cleveland office at 2350 North Ocoee Street. Dr. Chase specializes for the ladies in breast augmentation, including lifts, reconstructions, and reductions. Also tummy tucks or mommy makeovers, and facial rejuvenation, including facelifts, eyelids, brows, nose, and he also offers Botox procedures. Check out Dr. Christopher Chase. He is certified by the American Board of Surgery, the American Board of Plastic Surgery. He's a member of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons and the American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. Check their website out at aprs.md. That's aprs.md. Call for your convenient appointment in Cleveland at 624-0021. 624-0021. 2350 North Ocoee. That's Dr. Christopher Chase.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
Every Saturday. That's right, every Saturday.
from 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239. Or go see him
Every Saturday.
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
And we're glad to have you back with us this morning. We're here whooping it up. We're trying to whoop it up softly because John's been a little ill lately, and
Ill. I just needed a little tune-up.
he's been tuned up, but
Referring to his temperament, or
No, that's always been ill.
we've got to keep John calm and casual this morning, and I'm trying my best here, but
Hey, something we were kind of throwing around during the break. Let me ask Frank. Frank, this is not a criticism of the Democrats, but Monday, CNN ran either 4 or 5 town halls with some of you all's presidential candidates. That was a day after the attack in Sri Lanka. Not a single question was asked by any of them.
I actually noticed that there weren't many questions about foreign affairs at all in that, and I thought that was something that should be addressed.
Would you not think an attack like that with 300 dead and 500 injured would have been a major thing they should have been asked?
they don't talk about.
I agree.
They don't talk about what they need to. Let's take a phone call. Go ahead, caller. You're live.
Hey, good morning, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm good. How about you, man?
I've got a little question for you guys. inside the liquor stores are saving up. My question is, do you think the liquor store should be within a mile of the church?
I think a liquor store needs to be within a mile of a church. I don't know what the code is.
The code is 150 feet from, now let's get this,
Yeah.
building to building, not property to property.
Okay.
So theoretically, 150 feet,
Be next door to each other.
yeah, that's next door.
Well, first of all, I would say that it's probably unlikely you could find a location that's a mile from a church anywhere in the city. I don't think you could.
Well,
I don't
for
think you
those
could
of us
either.
that weren't really for
I
this,
understand.
maybe that would have been all right.
That was the question he asked.
And what do you think, caller?
Let me point something I said earlier. I've been told, and this I may be wrong about this. This was just sort of a hearsay comment someone made, that there's going to be 4 on Wildwood Avenue.
Yeah.
Now, for all the people that said, "Oh, this is great," this is going to be great, I have reservations as to whether that will make the Wildwood Avenue area better.
Well, Rusty used to be on Wildwood, didn't he?
No, he was on Dalton Pike.
Oh, okay. That was back in the old days, that was the, where you rode around the back and got a half pint and kept going.
Well,
They didn't ask for ID.
And look, liquor store owners will tell you they don't make money from the people that come in and buy a bottle of Crown Royal. They make money from the people that come in and buy a half pint every day. And so, look, I wasn't thrilled with the government making money off of people's bad decisions with the lottery.
Yeah.
And so you see these people go in, they stay all day, they spend every dime they've got on those scratch-offs or on something like that. I don't think this liquor store, 4 of them in the Wildwood Avenue area, is going to be good for that area. But congratulations, we're going to make $65,000 in tax revenue.
Well, there'll be some of them fail for sure. I don't know. This has been. I liked it when they said they was going to have 5. I don't know why they changed that.
Because they couldn't justify the 5. If you get 10 that put in, and all,
They should have been eligible for each district.
but if you put 10 in, and every one of them meets all of the criteria, then how do you justify the 5 you picked? That's what they found, that they didn't think that through.
Yeah.
And so they went, well, crap, we don't want to be accused of favoritism, so let's just open the door for everybody. Now, you're right. If there's 4 on Wildwood Avenue, 2 or 3 of them will probably go out of business eventually, because the profit margins are actually pretty tight on these things. But by the same token, I don't think one of them over there is going to be good for people that have alcohol problems to begin with, possibly.
Well, I think May the 4th is the first day they open, all right?
That's the first day I've heard of one of them opening. I don't know.
Well, we've got one of them advertising they'll be open May 4th.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think things will calm down after that happens.
And I still want someone to explain to me why you can't put a liquor store in a strip mall.
That one's got me. If I was a property owner and had a strip mall and had an empty space, I would be very upset. And I really think somebody could go later on and pursue that and get that.
Do you want to know why it seems like why that was done?
Why?
Because there are chain liquor stores that come into strip malls.
Right.
And so it would seem like somebody tailored this proposal to protect local businesses from chain stores.
Well, there'll be a lawsuit come down someday.
But surely to goodness the city council wouldn't have been involved in anything like that.
There'll be a lawsuit.
Well,
come
now,
down.
in fairness, they attempted to model the legislation that had been done in Athens or Etowah. They used that as a model.
Was the strip mall thing in that?
I don't recall for sure, but I do know that that's.
Well, please, I tell you what, any city councilman that's sitting out there or the city manager, please call us and give us the actual logic that resulted in a ban on
Tell us
strip
what
malls.
you think. 614-5553.
I bet we don't get a call.
614-5553.
Oh, Lordy.
Well, I think probably they'll say some of the security issues that they put around them, which were intended to do that, had something to do with that. I don't know if it's true or false, but
Well, I
that's...
can't imagine that because there's no negatives associated with liquor stores. That's kind of the way it was presented.
Well,
This is
they would
just a
say-
Shangri-La of tax dollars flowing in.
Hey, I heard a recent survey that I thought made a lot of sense. Said the Russian probe did more to harm than the Russian.
It did.
Well, that's what Jared Kushner said.
Interventions.
Well, actually, look, I'm not defending. This has nothing to do with Trump. The Russians' intent was to disrupt the country any way they could. And look, I think they probably started out thinking Hillary was going to win, so we'll stir the Trump side, just like the Hillary people were saying, oh, he's not going to accept defeat. I think they were trying to stir that. When he won, they said, fine, we'll just turn around and use it to stir the other side. And unfortunately, we played into their hands.
It's actually pretty clear that they were very opposed to Hillary Clinton.
But I didn't say that. What I said was, I don't think they thought he could win.
Why would they be opposed to her? Just let me talk.
Because she had been extraordinarily hard on them as Secretary of State.
Or because they had goods on her through the Uranium One deal.
What did she do to them? How hard was she?
She pushed that reset button, don't you remember?
What?
She looked at him and on camera had a reset button and went, I'm pushing this button.
How hard was she? I don't think she was very hard on. What did she do?
She was the primary person that was organizing the push for a lot of sanctions against them in the United Nations. The Magnuson Act that they were opposed to.
Did she ever do anything?
Actually, Trump, are you willing to actually admit that Trump has actually been harder on them since he's been president?
In certain areas, I would. In other areas, I would not.
All right. Well, at least that's a halfway fair answer.
Do you think the Russia probe did more than the Russian interference?
Oh, heck no.
Did more damage to our country? You don't think?
One of the news agencies.
Let me finish, John.
Well, let's be clear about this, and this is something I think John would admit. The Mueller folks didn't leak information during this. They kept their head down and weren't going to the press all the time.
They didn't have anything they could leak.
So I don't know what it is that the Mueller folks did.
Let me take a little turn on that, Franklin, because about 18 months ago, it was clear to Mueller and the people in the probe that there was no actual collusion. So a year ago, Mueller could have leaked and said, you know what, we're still pursuing obstruction, but there's no evidence of any collusion, and that actually would have saved the country a lot of heartache and turmoil.
Let's talk about some of the specific things that were in the Mueller report, okay, that are not.
Are you talking about phase 2 or phase 1 of the report?
We're talking about the collusion side of it first. Okay? All right, here's what we know. The campaign manager for the president was sending specific polling data from those Midwestern states that were at issue to the Russians.
That had already been made public.
No, this was their internal polling data. And that's in the report document.
How did he get it?
What do you mean? There are internal polls that they were doing inside the campaign.
Okay.
In Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in Ohio. He was sending it to Russian agents. You think that's something we should have been looking into?
Why was he sending it to Russian agents?
Well, guess what they did? That's when the Russian troll farms using Twitter and all that stuff started spewing all these ads into those particular states.
They couldn't even get an indictment established on Carter Page, who was the whole justification for the original. Look, I can't, I will say this again, and hopefully you won't go apoplectic, and I won't either. I cannot imagine that you can't see the danger of a sitting administration authorizing an investigation, including human assets inserted into the opposing party's campaign.
I can't imagine that you don't see a problem with people who are designated.
Franklin, they set Carter Page up.
There
were four different assets.
First of all, Carter Page.
He was invited to forums by FBI assets at which the idea was planted, and they followed it up. This was an entrapment from the start.
First of all, Carter Page had been under surveillance by our intelligence agency in 2013,
and had been a cooperating evidence.
He had not.
He absolutely was.
Number two,
he was cooperating with the FBI.
Number two, they've been unable to get interviews with some of the people he was dealing with over there in Russia.
What was the source of the Steele dossier?
Well, what was the
Almost every source, and there was a list published last week. It was a long list. Almost every source was a Russian intelligence operative. The entire document that was used to justify this investigation was actually disinformation from the Russian government paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC.
And
that's your collusion.
No, it's not. There's more to it than that.
That's your collusion.
You're willfully being ignorant about it.
What is it?
How about this one? Did you know, and they've got the text messages, a Russian business person that Michael Cohen was dealing with, and they have the text messages. Let me finish.
Where's the guilt? Where's the Mueller report? What happened in the Mueller report? Where is the guilt, Franklin?
Let me finish.
We've done this crap for so long, I don't even
By the way, Franklin, I am happy for you to do this because it helps us. You are re-electing Donald Trump with what you're doing. So by all means, continue.
The text message that Michael Cohen got from the Russians that he was trying to deal with to build a tower.
Is this crooked lawyer you're talking about?
It's the tower. It's the tower that didn't result in anything.
It's not his testimony. It's a text message.
It's the tower that didn't result in
The
anything.
text message was stopped flow of tapes from Russia, but not sure if there's anything else. And that Russian businessman was interviewed by the Mueller folks and said the tapes he was talking about were the derogatory tapes that we were being discussed about.
Well, Franklin, if you'd been building a tower in Switzerland, would it have been bad?
How about this one, John? If that's all true, what you're saying, why did the president look at the American people and say, I've had no dealings with Russia? What are you talking about?
But it was a proposed deal that fell through.
No, he lied.
It was a proposed deal that fell through, Franklin.
And they've been doing it for years trying to make this happen.
Franklin, it's so obvious from the day President Trump was elected
that you on
the day he was elected. Wait a minute. You keep talking about we the people are tired of the Democrats' bullshit.
First of all, we the people didn't elect him. So let's get that straight. Number two.
Just be clear what you're saying. You don't believe in the Electoral College.
What I said, John,
you don't believe in the Electoral College. You don't believe in the Electoral College.
John, is a majority of the American people did not vote for him.
Well, Franklin, that's what the Electoral College is set up for. Because we're not a democracy.
Like they did, though, because they did.
No, what we said was the system elected him.
Number two. You guys have got to, at some point, I'm going to say this, have to start putting your country over Donald Trump.
Wait a minute, let's say something.
Because there is no Republican
anymore. Let me talk. You keep saying you guys. I bet you if we took a survey right here in Cleveland, Tennessee right now, what do you think the survey'd say about your guy?
Donald Trump's approval rating fell to 37% this week.
It fell in the stock market.
37%.
You think that made the stock market go up? Him failing?
He raised over $1 million in the 24 hours after the Mueller report came out.
He did it. He raised $1 million
on small donors. It was on small donor dollars.
Franklin, you're going to hurt so bad at election time this year.
Could be.
Oh, I'm telling you, there's going to be tears. You're going to be crying blue tears.
A 50-year low. 50-year low under his policies.
Franklin, why can't you just admit he's doing a good job?
Because he doesn't want blacks and Hispanics to be employed.
Franklin, do you want open borders, Franklin? Do you want open borders?
No, I want common sense, Steve.
No, do you want
I want a president who doesn't inspire bigotry. That's what I want. I want a president who actually lives up to the idea of being president of the United States of America.
Let me give you
Not
one.
this guy who's...
You want somebody to act president?
You know what he's been successful at destroying all of our institutions of government. And maybe that's what you want.
Hey, what?
That he's destroying respect for the government.
No, Franklin, the FBI destroyed its own respect.
No, he's putting respect back in government. You know what we've had? Look what we've had at the top side of the Democrats right now. Look at what we've had in our Department of Justice. Look what we've had in our FBI. Look at what's going on there, Franklin. Do you not see corruption there? Do you not see this? Can you not understand what they're trying to do to a man that was elected President of the United States. It's called harassment. It's gone past anything wrong. Harassment is
the
all it is.
country, and you're going down with him.
Franklin, he
You're
didn't help
just
this country.
tagging on to him and saying, "Oh, this is wonderful." He is destroying the country you love.
What do you think Obama did?
Tried to lift the country up.
Oh, by apologizing for us around the world?
I think Obama made this.
We're doing what is Trump doing? Telling all these murderous thugs how good they are?
Let me give you an example.
Yesterday,
Hang on, I'll give you an example.
Kushner admitted.
Quit yelling, Franklin.
Yesterday, Jared Kushner admitted
Quit yelling.
that the Saudi guy murdered that journalist, okay? Admitted it. We know it. And then right after that was praising them. Yesterday, they executed 37 people who happened to be a religious
Franklin, we have
minority.
known that about the Saudis for decades through multiple Republican and Democratic administrations. And for you to single Trump out and go, he's to blame, we've all known that. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because they help us in one regard, but you're right. They are also the major funder of the Wahhabi sect schools, which most of the terrorists come from. We know that, but your guys did it too. We've all done it.
Do you think
so? That's unfair on your part.
Do you think there needs to be an investigation of the Democrats in this Steele dossier now?
I just told you for about 12 weeks there, y'all can investigate any darn thing you want. I'm not scared of
You're
that.
right. And you know why he's not scared of it? Because the media won't cover it an ounce. And if the media doesn't cover it, the people don't know. And he knows he's safe and protected like that. That's why you can have 5 town halls on the Monday after a massacre of Christians, and the Democrat candidates won't be asked a single question about it.
What y'all are doing is just blowing smoke over all the real crap that he's doing up there.
What? Tell me something.
60 major American corporations paid zero in taxes.
So what? It's all legal. If you want to do it, fix the law.
That's right.
Who writes the law? The Congress. The Congress writes the law,
That's
Franklin.
right, John. And we're going to reveal what you're doing.
Franklin, he didn't do anything wrong. Those are laws.
That's right, Steve.
Well,
that's right. And we're going to reveal the truth to people so they can see what's
All right,
happening.
Franklin, will that truth include the fact that Medicare and Medicaid are going
I'm
insolvent?
glad you said that one.
Franklin.
I'm glad you said that because here's the facts. This is Mitch McConnell on Fox News this past week. Did you see that one, Sean? He was talking about Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All proposal. You know what Mitch McConnell's response was?
It was
Medicare for none. That's a quote.
Good, Franklin. I'm glad
He
to
wants
say
to
it was a
destroy
stupid thing to
Medicare.
say.
And you know what? We are going to show those.
Listen,
we are going to run those commercials like Grandma
nobody
push off
has
the
to
cliff. Because that's what y'all want to
Nobody
do.
has to destroy Medicare because just this week they testified Social Security will be insolvent by 2035. Medicare will be insolvent by 2026. And you all are asking to expand it.
We can fix that in a heartbeat.
No,
but we can't do it by giving billions and millions of dollars to
Now,
tax
John, I want
breaks
to say
to
something.
corporations who don't need it.
All right, let me say something to you, Franklin. Those people that filed those tax deals and didn't pay any taxes, you think they invested in
No,
money?
I didn't.
You
They
don't-
didn't.
You
You know
don't-
what?
You
I
don't
can
think
prove
they
that
bought?
too.
You don't think they bought new equipment?
No.
What does Vocker do?
They didn't hire more
locally?
people?
What does Vocker do locally?
What now?
Were you opposed to the in lieu of tax agreements that Vocker signed with the local government?
I think the jury's still out on whether it'll be a good deal or not.
What got them to come here in the first place, Franklin?
Maybe those.
So, but you obviously are against them. You're telling me how you're against these corporations. That's Vocker not paying local taxes. So we should have.
This was Dana Perino on Fox News the other day. All right, she's the business correspondent on there, right?
No, she's not a business correspondent. She's a former press secretary.
This is a quote. The tax cut was for the rich. It absolutely helped the rich. Look at the stock market. Hold on, let me finish.
All right.
The rest of the quote. Look at what the companies did. They bought stock back. They didn't reinvest.
Let me ask you a question, Franklin.
They did not.
Let me ask you a question. If you and 3 of your friends go out to eat, and one of them says, I'm going to pick the tab up, and the waiter says, you know, we really appreciate having you here. I'm going to give you a 20% discount on the bill. Did it benefit the three of you, or did it benefit the one guy?
It's a huge scam.
But no, it's not a scam.
Yeah,
That's
it
not
is
the
a
point,
scam.
Franklin. It benefited the one guy because he paid the bill.
You said that they were going to
The people that pay the bills get the biggest discount.
Guess what? You said they were going to bring all this money back they were storing over there in other countries because of this tax break. Guess what? Less than 1/10 of it was moved back to America.
That's more than we had before.
And guess what else? That money wasn't reinvested in equipment. It's a huge scam.
One of the reasons, Franklin, is because you all took the Congress and the business community is scared of what Nancy Pelosi's going to do.
You blew up the deficit for nothing. We got nothing out of it.
Except almost virtual no unemployment, highest stock market in decades.
You got nothing.
We got zero unemployment.
Infrastructure.
We have complete
None
employment
of the things
in
the
the
president
country
said he was going to do, did he do it?
All right, listen, I want both of you to be quiet for a minute. I'm going to talk. I've been trying to talk. I've got a few things I want to say.
Where's the beef?
First of all, I want to see everybody Friday night at the museum for the Old Timers Banquet down there. I'll be there myself. So y'all come on by. Also, I want to say that it's always nice working with you two guys, but we've got to calm down a little bit. We've got complaint. People can't understand what y'all are talking about. There's so much yelling and screaming going on.
That sounds exactly what it's like around my house.
Anyway, I want to say one last thing before we leave. I know Franklin tries hard to make us think that Trump is such a sorry person, but you know what? I still think he's probably one of the best, or the best president we've ever had now. I'm going to put him in the very best president we've ever had. You know, there's a lot of people that think the way I do. And I can't wait until the next election, because when some of these nuts on the Democratic side, there's 20 of them now, I think, running, and I don't know of anything they're talking about that's going to help our country. So we'll just wait and see and keep seeing what else comes up. Things that, you know, I just can't imagine the next nutty things they're going to think of to try to get something going. Anything. I think we'll wind it up and call it a day. Everybody have a great week. Hey, John?
Hey, let me say this. I had the procedure done at Memorial Hospital. They were wonderful to me, treated me as good as you could expect. They were attentive. They were caring. I could not have asked for better treatment.
Well, good. They were always treating me well if I ever had to go there, too. Anyway, everybody have a good week. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again.